Hi, my name is Doris Schepers, and I grew up here in Ferdinand, Indiana, less than a mile away from the monastery. I couldn't see it from my house, but I could see it, walk down the street and I could see the monastery. But when I was here, I didn't really think about becoming a sister because I had difficulty talking about my faith. My faith was there. We went to church and the CCD program and those types of things, but I had difficulty talking about it. And when I went away to college and I ended up with a job in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and I worked there for quite some time, and probably in my mid to late 20s, the thought came up of becoming a sister, and I just kind of shoved that aside because, again, I still didn't feel comfortable talking about my faith. And in my 30s, I started volunteering at the church I belonged to in Clarksville, Indiana, and I started volunteering with the youth group. And I found several things through that. Number one, how much I love being with youth. And at that point, I decided to change my career path and become a teacher. And the other thing that happened was I found out how much I loved the church. And I started thinking about, that thought of becoming a sister showed up again. And I kind of pushed it off to the side. And I eventually thought about it again in my late 30s, and I told somebody about it then. And this person became my spiritual director, and he told me that if I was serious about it, I should put down the pros and the cons. At that point in my life, I had everything I needed, and I can't think of anything that I wanted that I didn't have. And but there was still something missing in my life. My life wasn't full. And so I did started to get interested in the vocation, and I contacted a former teacher of mine who was here at the monastery, and she was also a former vocation director. And she put me in contact with the people who were in the vocations office here, and I started discerning, and it was a long discernment because I was at a point to where I could have, in another 5 or 6 years, I could have retired from the federal government and had that pension and all of that type of thing. But I listened to my heart, and which is where God puts things that He wants you to listen to. And I listened to my heart, and I did discern that the monastery here in Ferdinand was the place that I found a sense of peace that I've never felt before. Even though I grew up here in Ferdinand and came and visited my folks a lot and that type of thing, but I never had that same sense of peace. And I'm very happy that I entered. That's not saying that it's always been an easy road. I lived on my own for about 20-something years, and then to enter the monastery and fall under someone else's rule and live with other people, it was an adjustment, but I made that adjustment, and I've never been happier in my life.